YouTube, what's up with it? Today we're gonna do something about Larry Hoover right here. 73 years old. This man's trying to get out of prison. This man trying to get out of prison at 73 years old. Now, a lot of people already know who Larry Hoover is, right? And if you don't know who Larry Hoover is, we're gonna go over all that here real shortly. We're gonna cover all that. But nonetheless, this man is a gang member, a founder, and he's been incarcerated since 1997. And think about this, it's 2024 right now. Since 1997, the world has stood still for this brother right here. All these years, he's just been sitting in one place all these years. So you think about what the world was like in 1997, right? Think about what the world was like in 1997. For y'all that weren't even around in 1997, the internet didn't even exist like it does now. You know, you had to download videos and all that stuff right there. It took forever. It would take all night to download one song. They didn't have fast, none of this, none of that. This man knows this world with no internet. He don't know the revolution that came behind the 2000s. He hasn't lived in the world as we know it. As the world we know it, he hasn't experienced it. All these experiences since 1997 is incarceration. This man ain't, he may have drank a little bit of Pruno, maybe smoked a little weed here and there. Hardly even doubt he did any of that. He's been sober minded all these years from 1997 all the way to 2024 right here, right? For all these years. And in a sound and conscious mind, Larry Hoover has denounced any gang affiliation. He's denounced all that shit. He doesn't represent it, stays free. Of course, which would be the smart thing to do, right? He wouldn't want to include himself with none of that shit. But yeah, the title of this right here is Larry Hoover testifies in court seeking early release from life sentence. And once again, Larry Hoover, this is the Wikipedia breakdown. American former gangster and street gang kingpin. He is the founder of Chicago street gang, the Gangster Disciples, the GDs. Hoover is currently serving 6 life sentences in the ADX Florence prison in Colorado. He was previously sentenced to life imprisonment plus 200 years. They give his brother life in prison plus 200 years. 200 years. Who'll be living for 200 years? How many times does this man's soul have to die before it's finally free? This is what the state of Chicago gave him: imprisonment plus 200 years, life plus 200 years for a 1973 murder. So for something that happened in 1973, his whole life right here is going to be pivotal to that action in 1973 right here. However, following a 17-year investigation, he was convicted of conspiracy, extortion, money laundering, and running a continuing criminal enterprise from state prison. Hoover received another life term in 1997, another one. So they said the first life sentence wasn't enough, that 200 years, let's go ahead and give him another life sentence right here. They're giving him all this right here. What's up with the chat, though? Shout out to the chat. Peace to the chat. See y'all up in there. So Hoover was born in 1950. So now it's 2000. So he's 73, 74. This picture right here looks way different than this most recent one that they just had, right? This look way different, don't it? Like, look at this don't look like this well-aged man right here. This look like two different. I wonder how big of a difference. You know what I mean? Y'all see that? Big difference. There's the face. There's the drawing, right? This almost lightweight look like a white guy almost in this picture, but further on it goes to say down here, it says that in 1974, after the leader, it says in 1969, Hoover and David Barksdale called a truce and decided to combine both of their respective rival gangs, the Supreme Gangsters and Black Disciples, together to become the Black Gangster Disciple Nation, BGDN. So where's the murder that he got convicted of? Okay, so here it is, 1973. This is the main murder, right? On the evening of February 26, 1973, William Pookie Young, a 19-year-old neighborhood drug dealer, was abducted and later shot dead in the alley near 68th Street and Union Avenue in Inglewood, a neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. Always seems like everything be going down in the south side of Chicago. All the murders, all that crazy shit that be going on all the times and shit, all them people you hear killed over the weekend, all it seems like it always just be happening on the south side. Y'all correct me in the chat if I'm wrong though. It says his killing was ordered by Hoover after his name was mentioned as one of the 3 people accused of stealing drugs and money from the gang 6 days earlier. Andrew Howard was arrested on March 16, 1973, while Hoover went into hiding in Chicago. On September 21st, 1973, damn, so this shit just passed for him right here. You know, he's setting up in that cell thinking about because September 21st got to be engraved in this brother's mind like no other, right? September 21st. That's actually my mom's birthday too. 1973. He's got to think about this date forever for the rest of his life. Hoover was driving a stolen truck and was asked to stop for a traffic violation. He tried to run away from the scene, but was arrested. You know, that's a nasty, was arrested. It just say, you know, it seems so simple, but you got to think about this, man. That man, that's the last time he knew he was going to see freedom right there, right? That right there, running and that arrest and getting them handcuffs put on you, knowing you going to the police station, knowing you ain't finna see freedom. Life as you know it has changed and expired completely across the board. And unfortunately, I've been in that situation right there. And that is a nasty, nasty ride right there. The police also discovered that he was wanted in Williams Young murder. In October 1973, Howard and Hoover were both indicted for murder. In December, were both sentenced to life in prison. Damn, they shot his little shit through the court quick. He got bumped here, then went October, and by December, they was ready to sentence him. That usually court proceedings, you know what I mean? They drag out a little bit longer. They made sure they got him in there, and good Lord. Now it says sentenced to life imprisonment is a sentence, imprisonment for a crime under which a convicted criminal is to remain in prison for the rest of their natural life. Crimes that result in life imprisonment are extremely serious and usually violent. Example of these crimes are murder, torture, terrorism, and child abuse. Child abuse, yeah, he definitely got to get their ass in there. Hoover was sent to Statesville. So 1973, yeah, I know his mind's heavy around this time right here, October, and then in December he got sentenced, and this is coming around. Damn, Christmas would never be the same for him like that. You think about that. December, you ain't get no gifts. They just sent your ass to prison for life plus 200 years. Life stopped for him right there, though. That's crazy. September 21st, life as he knew it stopped. Stopped. I mean, he a dead man walking right now. That's how I label a man that got a life sentence like this. You just alive to exist for your death date, really. That's all you alive for. That's all you alive for is for that date that you're gonna die now. You're just gonna be sitting housed behind a concrete wall while the world spins. You know what I mean? While the world spins, you just sit behind these walls. That's the coldest reality in the world. 1997, criminal enterprise conviction. While in prison for murder on August 22nd, 1995, a 17-year undercover joint investigation by the Illinois Department of Corrections, FBI, Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms, Hoover was indicted for conspiracy and extortion, money laundering, drug-related offenses, and continuing to engage in a criminal enterprise. So he had a nice run, though, from 73 all the way to 97. He was just back there controlling shit, operating, you know what I mean, making money, calling shots. You know, he was that motherfucker right there, right? That's who he was, right? He was the man. He was running shit behind them walls, moving a nation, right? Moving a whole nation, right? Moving a whole motherfucking nation. And it says a lengthy federal investigation using wiretaps led to Hoover getting arrested. Prosecutors alleged that his gang had over 30,000 soldiers in 35 states and made $100 million a year. He was arrested at the Dirksen Correctional Center by federal agents and moved to this downtown to stand trial. In 1997, Hoover was found guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to 3 additional life terms. 3 additional. Damn, they just be giving this, bro. They gonna make this man's soul never get free. That's what they trying to do. They trying to bound him forever. They put him under the motherfucking prison right there. Additional, that's crazy right there. 1997, and was sentenced to 3 additional life terms in federal prison. Hoover is currently serving his sentence at the ADX Florence in Fremont County, Colorado. Now I'm from Denver, which is in Colorado. Denver is the heart of Colorado. It's the biggest city in Colorado. And of course, it's the livest, and I'm definitely biased, right? But I done been in Fremont County driving through and shit like that. And that's part of Canyon City out there. That's where they call Colorado's prison industrial complex right there, because there's like 9 to 10 different prisons that's in this same little county right here. So, all this little area where he's at right there is just nothing but people locked up all around him, all different kind of penitentiaries and all kinds of shit. And to just be stuck there under lock and key. You know what I mean? Always having cameras on you. They always watching his stuff. He ain't getting no privacy. They reading his letters. They reading his mail. This man has nothing really though. He's been reduced to the most. You know what I mean? Most, like it's like a piece of a crumb, a breadcrumb. He's been reduced to a breadcrumb from life as he knows it right here to being put in this federal house, the penitentiary, with all these life sentences, and be deemed a gang leader. One of the all the things you can think of, right? Now he's had attempts to appeal, right? He's had attempts to appeal, having hired Bill Cosby's former attorney. Some other ones, I guess, were other ones. So he's put out a book, The Larry Hoover Project, in 2014. Hoover's wife created the Larry Hoover Project, aimed to give her husband clemency and have his criminal history reviewed. Now, ain't this the one? Y'all tell me in the chat though. Ain't this the one that Kanye West, Jay Prince, and all them? It wasn't that his shit right there? I kind of remember this shit right here, right? The Larry Hoover Project, but it didn't push no needles, right? It didn't really do shit, right? Yep, Kanye West, Chicago rapper, over a decade, has been vocal for Hoover's release from prison. Kim Kardashian's ass couldn't even. That's bad when Kim Kardashian's ass couldn't even get his ass out of there. You know what I mean? Kim Kardashian should have been able to. They really want this motherfucker to do life and die inside that federal prison. There ain't no doubt about it. I mean, the man's 73 right now, right? He's 73. How much life does a man really have after the age of 73? I wonder. Y'all tell me in the chat, because I wonder. After 73, you may make it to maybe 88 if you really been healthy and taking care of yourself, right? Right. I mean, he ain't got that much. What harm could Larry Hoover do in these last dying years of his life right here? What could he really get out here and do that would be harmful, or you know what I mean? So Kim Kardashian couldn't even get this dude out. Couldn't even do it. No kind of way, right? Now, let's see right here. Let's read the thing. Matter of fact, let's watch this. All right, quick.
Early release from multiple life sentences, a special program passed by Congress known as the First Step Act, in some cases allowing early release for certain rehabilitated prisoners. Wearing a tan long-sleeve shirt, glasses, and a gray beard, a shackled Larry Hoover in Florence, Colorado, appearing on the monitors in a Dirksen Federal Courtroom here in Chicago, the 73-year-old founder of the notorious Gangster Disciples street gang, testifying from the ADX supermax prison in Colorado. I'm a completely different person than the man who went to prison in 1997, Hoover said in a low voice. I'm very reflective here at ADX. You're locked up at least 21 hours a day. I have no desire to run the GDs or to be involved in any criminal activity.
Hold on, let's read that. I'm a completely different person from the man who went to prison in 1997. I have no desires to run the Gangster Disciples involved in any criminal activity. Any, he says, I'm sure, think about how much you would change as a man. With all you have to do is think, sober minded. He's been sober minded since 1997 to think about this, if not earlier than that, right? What was it, 79 or something like that? I forget the date, but think about it. He's been sitting in this prison cell since 1997. He'd give anything right now, anything just to get back out here and live free like we do every day, right? Every day we wake up, we get to move around, we get to go to work, we get to go do all these things. We get to go to the store if we want to, we get to go get some food if we want to. We get to choose what we eat. I mean, y'all know the whole ordeal, right? This brother right here would give anything. He's denounced his enterprise. He's denounced the gang. He's wrote books that go against the whole ideal of what he lived his entire previous life to, right? His whole previous life before being incarcerated and even a duration after being incarcerated was still being on some gangster shit though, right? Still some criminal code, street code, the whole nine. But now here he is right here. I mean, at the age 70, 73, 74, he's denouncing in front of the world and has for quite a while, right? He has no connection, no criminal activity whatsoever.
I'm past that part of my life. But the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Illinois vehemently opposing the early release of Hoover, arguing that he still asserts leadership when it comes to the Gangster Disciples, also known as the GDs. In the courtroom, federal prosecutor Julia K. Schwartz arguing that Hoover's done more damage to the city of Chicago than any defendant that's come through here before.
Damn, y'all, they said he's the worst and he's done the most damage than any other criminal that's ever came through that court. They deemed him the most dangerous, is what they basically said right there. He's one of the most, he is the most dangerous man. And keep in mind, though, this man is dangerous because of the influence in the history and what he's done previously in the streets, right? That's what they give him so much street power, right? Recognition and all the shit that everybody strives for right here. But this man got everything right there and he don't want it no more. He ain't got no freedoms as far as who comes and goes, what time he gets up, what times he moves around. You know what I mean? He's got to be on the system schedule for the rest of his life until he dies. Freedoms, the basic things that we take for granted every day, this brother right here would kill for right now. To have a McDonald's sandwich, you know what I'm talking about? To have a motherfucking Wendy's, a Big Mac, any of this shit that we think is garbage, right? Man, they would, man, make love to every bite that they get right now. Man, being locked up like that, man, you can't wait to taste some street food that got some grease and all that shit. This man's they're never gonna let this man out though. They just deemed him the worst man ever to be in that courtroom.
Today's government filing, the United States of America versus Larry Hoover, aka the chairman and the king, the feds arguing, quote, Hoover has well earned his life sentence, and he is not the type of defendant Congress intended to benefit in enacting the First Step Act. Indeed, if he were sentenced today, Hoover would receive the same mandatory life sentence. But after...
And they said on this shit right here, hold up, I just want to see this. Has well earned his life sentence. Has well earned it. They say he earned all them life sentences because he don't have just one, right? He got a couple life sentences. He's well earned it. No coming back from them actions.
Today's hearing, Larry Hoover's loved ones and attorneys, along with many...
I wonder, is that his mom right there? Is this mom's or is this his sister right here? If he's 73, yeah, his mom got to be up there. That's crazy. If mom is still alive and her son, she's watched have to suffer all these years back there, right there. That's got to be crazy to know that you raised a baby out of your womb to become one of the most known gang members in the motherfucking world, damn near, at least on the Western side, right? Like, that's crazy. And then here still they begging for his release. You know what I mean? They showing up, showing support. They gonna take care of him if he come home. They got a job for him. He can do way more good. And the court don't give a fuck.
Supporters arguing that Hoover is a changed man and can do much good if he's released.
It was good sounds like, to me, he was a bit nervous, but, you know, it's his life that he's dealing with.
He is not associated with the gang and hasn't been for many, many decades. But he probably has some insights into how we can make life better for young people so that they don't turn to gangs.
Ain't that some shit right there? His son looked like him though. I could see the resemblance. Let's take a little look right there. There go his son. Let's go back to old Larry up here. Larry, I see old Larry. I see Larry. See, they got that resemblance. They be looking alike. Pops right there. The junior right here. But I believe him. I feel him though, right? If Larry Hoover was to get out today, right, I'm sure in what he's been doing for quite a while, you know, he could help the youth out way more, right? But the youth don't want to hear no shit from an old motherfucker like Larry Hoover. They want to hear from the motherfucker drilling with the 30-round clip, the motherfucker. They want to hear it from some cat that's like 3-4 years older than them, right? That's what they want to hear it from. They want to hear it from the cats in the streets, right? In the streets. Old cat can't tell you nothing. His whole ideal was to be this person. Now he want to give it all up and tell you don't do it. He want to tell you don't do it. Don't do that shit. Don't go down that road. Don't follow this path. Don't do this. This ain't gonna do nothing for you. But this man ain't getting out though. They ain't gonna let Larry out.
Parties will be back in court in October. At the Dirksen Federal Building, Julian Cruz, WGN News.
So what's even crazy, you know, Larry Hoover ain't the only one, right? What is Tukey Williams? What didn't he do the same process and the state knocked him off, right? Tukey Williams. What was clemency, right? Let's see. There's a video. It ain't super long, but you know, this man wanted to get out, right? This man was ready. This man, Tukey Williams had wrote books for kids not to gangbang, not to do any of this shit, and he is the ideal forefather, right, of Crippin'. And you know the state of California, right? They ruled against it, and they didn't do it to Manson, right? They didn't do it. Manson had all those crazy charges for killing pregnant women and all kinds of stuff, right? They didn't do that to him, but they did it to Tukey Williams, and Tukey Williams basically it's a mind fuck if you think about that. He spent his entire life, his ideal of who he was as a gangster, as a gang member, right? He renounced all that shit at the end. At the end, he said he ain't part of that shit no more. Don't want nothing to do with that shit. Kids don't follow me. Don't do none of that shit. Don't do it. All at the end, though. The end be too late though for this shit though. That's the cold kicker. You know, the end is too late. At the end, you don't get it. You don't get it. There's nothing else. They want to let you out. The actions have already been solidified. For every action is a consequence, right? There's a chain reactions for all actions, right? And one action in your life can change the trajectory of your life in the snap of a fingers, right? In the snap of a fingers, you could change your entire life by doing some shit that would fuck off your life for the rest of your life. And that's, in a sense, the fate of Larry Hoover, Tukey Williams, and pretty much a lot of gang members and criminals and all kinds of shit that get incarcerated, though. That's the cold kicker, is that one action is going to dictate your life forever, that you'll never get away from. You'll never be able to undo that shit, especially when it involves killing somebody, taking somebody off this earth right here. When you unalive somebody in this world, that's one of the most things that foulest things you can do, right? That's one of the most, you know what I mean? But then again, everybody in the Bible had murdered or something at some point. So can't every righteous man just be, without blame or dirt on their hands? But I think there comes a point when we get in the game where we know right from wrong, right? We know morals from the whole nine. And I think, going against that is going against God, when you know what's right and what's wrong, when you can feel it in your soul. But there's this video I wanted to find though. I can't remember the video though. It was a short video where he was just about to get out though, and he was giving a speech. Let me see if I could find this. This may be it right here. Yep, this is it.
CBS Tonight.
If Stanley Tukey Williams were just another vicious convict on death row trying to evade execution, or if he had been a vicious gang leader who now teaches school kids how to avoid becoming what he used to be, or if Williams had been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, not won one, just nominated for one, chances are it wouldn't have made a 60-minute story. But because he's all three, an inmate on death row who teaches inner-city kids how to avoid joining gangs, and a nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize, his is a 60-minute story. Stanley Williams has spent 23 years, nearly half his life, at
That brother is swole though. He ain't even as big as he used to be in that picture right there. But he look, I know he double. They got the he got to have the double cuffs on. Yeah, his shit going around because yeah, bro, kind of swole right
23
there.
years, nearly half his life, at San Quentin State Prison near San Francisco,
23.
awaiting execution for robbing and murdering 4 people. Williams says since he's been on death row, he's had time to reflect on the violence and destruction he caused by founding the Crips, the most notorious street gang in America. And 11 years ago, in an effort to redeem himself, he made an appeal to street gangs everywhere to make peace.
Working together, we can put an end to this cycle that creates deep pain in the hearts of our mothers, our fathers, and our people who have lost loved ones to this senseless violence.
So I feel everything he's saying right there, but it trips me out that we always got to get behind them walls for us to get this shit though. That's when everybody be behind the walls. And I'm one of them. I've been in the same shoes where I'd be like, I was doing hella shit on the streets that was, shit outside the lines of society by the 10th power. But yet, you get behind the walls and you realize, like, I know for me, I think it was being sober minded, right? Because on the streets, you could drink, you could smoke, you could do all that shit that make you, you know what I mean? Kind of like, not even listen to your conscience, not even do none of that stuff right there, right? But we get behind these walls, we find God, we come to the realization of all this shit is bullshit, gotta do better. And then we get back out into this world right here and get drowned out by all the luxuries of life, right? By all the sound, sights, and influence. We get out from these penitentiaries after being healthy and going strong mentally and shit, and then get out here to this world and get drowned out though. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, Tukey Williams ain't never get out, and we're gonna get to that. But I just be thinking right here because here is the founding member of the Crips, right? One of the most Godfather right here of Crippin' right here. This is the Godfather of Crippin' right here. And you heard what the man said. He just said, he want peace. Senseless death and destruction, right? But that as a gang member, that's your thing to do is destroy, right? As a gang member's mission. So he's the opposite side of the fence of any gang member at this time, right here. Because gang members from his era and eras that few after that is to seek, kill, and destroy right there. They, you know what I mean? They gonna bang. That's what banging is. That's why motherfuckers say I'm a gang banger. You know what I mean? They banging. That's the cold kicker right here. Now, behind the walls, life 23 years after, being locked in that cell and wanting to get out and come home.
Working together, we can put an end to this cycle that creates deep pain in the hearts of our mothers, our fathers, and our people who have lost loved ones to this senseless violence.
Now, at age 50, Stanley Williams is literally trying to rewrite his violent history. From his 9-by-4-foot prison cell, he has authored 9 books for school children.
And look at them books, though. They look crazy. They look like some 80s shit, some early 90s type of shit. These little kids right here, look, they got the white girl down here in the corner. They could have did a better making these covers right here. Got Tukey's head right there and shit right there. They did their thing though. He wrote all them books right there just to keep kids out of gangs. Just to keep kids out of gangs, coming from somebody that created one of the most known gangs that we know still to this day, right?
That warn about the perils of gangs and violence, gangs and drugs, gangs and self-esteem, and about the harsh realities of life in prison. And from death row, Williams has been running a one-man multimedia campaign to promote his anti-gang message, which extends from the internet, where he has his own website, to a website to promote his anti-gang message, which...
Look at that shit. This is for you young motherfuckers here. Y'all don't remember when the internet looked like this. Hey, if you remember when the internet looked like this, you up there with me right here. Because I remember this right here was called your Internet Explorer, boy. This shit take me back. This how the internet used to look right here. It'd be just a web page with no pictures, none of that shit. Just some basic ass shit like this. You know what I mean? You had to dial into this shit. It'd be making all kinds of noises and shit when you logging in. Y'all don't know nothing about this though.
Which extends from the internet, where he has his own website, to a reverential made-for-TV movie about his life.
I used to be the king of the Crips. Look at my kingdom now.
And to radio stations across the country, which are running a public service announcement featuring Stanley Williams.
You don't want to be in a gang. I've turned my life around. You can too. I'll show you how.
And what may be unheard of for a convicted murderer, Williams is actually invited by public schools to talk directly to students by telephone from death row. We sat in one day recently when Williams used one of the 3 hours of phone time he's allotted per week to call a class at Leadership High School in San Francisco. Many of the students come from gang-infested neighborhoods and have experienced firsthand the effects of gang violence, like 10th grader Orlando.
A friend of mine from another school was shot and killed, and a couple weeks ago, another friend of mine was shot, but he survived.
The students who had read Williams' book, Life in Prison, prepared a list of questions for him.
Hi, Mr. Williams.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Marianne.
Hello,
Hey, my question is, your book talks about transformation. How do we know it's sincere?
my work speaks for itself. I'm not trying to convince anyone of my transformation. I know I have changed. God knows I have changed. And the individuals who are listening to my voice should be able to detect that I've actually made a transformation.
So I'm gonna pause it on that note right there. That man said right there that God knows his transformation. He got no doubt about that. Hold, let me close this door. My dog is loud. Mamas, come here, girl. Get your ass. All right. So he said in front of God, everybody knows this man has made a transformation. I don't think there's no question. We know he renounced the gang. He's anti-gang. He don't want nothing to do with no gang. He don't want to do none of that shit. But does any of that shit matter at the end? Does any of that shit matter at the end, though? Somebody in the chat tell me, do that shit matter at the end? That shit surely don't matter, especially being black. That shit surely don't matter at the end by no means, to no court system by any means. They gonna hold you accountable by all means, by all fucking means. They gonna hold you accountable to them decisions that you did in the past, though. There's no way to escape that shit. You ain't gonna escape it. There's no way around it, no matter how much you found God, no matter how much you changed. All you can do is just put it into the universe and hope that you can get right with God around that time right there, because at some point your life is gonna expire and you gotta go in front of the next judgment of life and be held accountable for everything you did in this life, right? And he's changed, so I have no doubt about it.
It took years and years for me to experience a change. I started off reading a lot. It opened up a new world for me, and in time, I developed a conscience, and I was no longer filled with self-hate.
So my question is, are you afraid of dying or death? Why or why not?
Man, that's a nice question. I like that. Pretty profound. Well, honestly, I don't want to die, but death is a constant reminder here. It's something that I live with, and I can't dwell upon all the time because I have to do what I can in order to write these books.
See, he just said some prolific shit right there. Prolific. I was prolific as ever. And Tukey Williams is a very smart, intellectual man, right? For sure, for sure. And I mean, he's had nothing but time to read and ponder his thoughts and think and shit, right? So here this man said that he just developed a conscience while he was in there. I wonder, being out and doing the things that he did he not have a conscience previous to this shit? You know what I mean? Like, is that with the drugs, PCP and all that shit? I wonder, because when you get behind them walls, you're gonna sober up. You're gonna get clear consciousness. You're gonna get a reminder of what you're doing right there. But you don't have to get locked up to know that your death is gonna happen. At some point, you will leave this life. We're all guaranteed. I don't care how rich, I don't care what ethnic group you part of. We all got a date that we exit out of this world, though.
Hey, that's a nice question. I like that. Pretty profound. Well, honestly, I don't want to die, but death is a constant But it's something that I live with and I can't dwell upon all the time because I have to do what I can in order to write these books.
The students told us that what Stanley Williams has to say is having an impact on them at a critical time in their lives when the pressure can be strong to join again.
He really sincerely made a change and is trying to help us, and I think that I commend him for that. I know for sure it makes me want to stay at the San Quentin.
What did he say that makes you want to stay out of San Quentin?
But just describing everyday things. The violence, having to look over your shoulder, you don't want to, so you don't get stabbed. Everything. Prison is just not a place you want to be.
Some people say that he's not sincere, that this is a ploy to get off of death row or to get out of prison. How would you respond to that?
I think some of those people are simple-minded because they think that people can't really change. But what he has done is turned his whole life around, and you can see that he's sincere because all the books he's written, the trouble he's going through to try to turn people.
Even this kid can see he's changed, right? If somebody this young can recognize the man's change, I mean, there's no question, right? Tookie Williams changed, he gave up the game, the whole nine. Do that matter at the end, though? That's what I want to know. Do that matter at the end? Does the change really matter at the end? The change in front of God in the heart is what matters, right? That's what matters the most, is the change in heart that this man has. But as far as the flesh life that we know it, this free world as we know it, this court system don't give a damn about that change at that point in the game right there. They don't. They want your head. You got to die behind them walls. It's not going to happen. It don't matter. Kim Kardashian, we seen already with Larry Hoover, right? Kim Kardashian couldn't even get Larry Hoover out. They would have let, if anybody else, they would have let out for Kim Kardashian, right?
The other way that are going down the path he did.
It is Stanley Williams' work with these children and thousands of others who read his books that prompted a member of the Swiss parliament to nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize 4 years ago, placing him in the company of people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Dalai Lama, and Mother Teresa. Williams was nominated again this year by California professor of philosophy, Philip Gasper.
Here is somebody with so few resources, but through strength of personality and perseverance, he has managed to have this enormous impact. I think he's an incredible role model.
But, you know, this is a man who's been convicted of 4 murders. There's no question about the founding of the Crips, the violence and life of mayhem that he led. I don't understand how you then nominate someone like that for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, there's no question that he has had, a violent past. But, the same is true of some other people that have won the Nobel Peace Prizes.
Ain't that an argument right there? The murders that he's committed right there, they think should not be able to nominate him. But, behind them walls, there's some of the most intellectual, smart men you'll ever come across that probably ever have walked this earth. They behind them walls, though. They totally behind them walls. And, let's not forget, let's go over here real quick. We're going to go to Google right here. People in the Bible that killed. Let's go here. Not killed themselves. We ain't talking about killed themselves, but let's take a glance at how many people in the Bible. Look, Cain and Abel, Herod, John the Baptist, the death of, there's so many people that have been redeemed in the Bible. So murder definitely has to be taken out the equation as the ultimate. You know what I mean? At the end, if your heart's right, if God gives you that long to get your heart right, I think you're good, right? So, here's Tookie Williams. That's outstanding, man. Got a Nobel Peace Prize behind the walls, though, for writing about anti-gang involvement and joining the gang. They Nobel Peace Prize right there. And remember, this man's whole identity is behind gangbanging, about founding the Crips and everything that came with that. But he laid all that down. He laid that shit down and had renounced it and done all that shit right there. And was it just for the hopes of getting out? I don't think it was just for the hopes of getting out. I bet getting out played a huge part, but I bet he really realized with a sober mind behind them walls that this shit is doing nothing but destroying, right? That's all it's doing, is destroying, though. We all can see that. Anyone can see that.
As well. Henry Kissinger was awarded it in 1973, and many people would claim that he's a war criminal. F.W. de Klerk got it with the end of apartheid. He supervised that system of racism and oppression But the Nobel Peace Prize isn't awarded for what your past is like. You don't have to have an unblemished past. It's awarded on the basis of, have you made a contribution towards peace? And that, I think, is what is true of Stanley Williams.
Not according to Vernell Crittenden, a San Quentin prison official who's been monitoring Stanley Williams for 23 years. Ever since he arrived on death row.
They've been monitoring this man for 23 years. They've been on everything, just like they was with Larry Hoover. They watching all his mail. They listening to his phone calls. You know what I mean? They scrutinize this man behind this little cell, this little existence of life that he has back here. He has nothing back there.
I am aware that he has been nominated. I've actually had the opportunity to spend several hours with Mother Teresa when she visited here at San Quentin, as I was one of her personal escorts through the prison. And Stanley Williams is no Mother Teresa.
What do you think he's trying to accomplish with these books?
Well, I think that all of this is all part of his way of attempting to escape the executioner and being held accountable.
He said escape. So this is the prosecution going against Tukey right here. They saying he's trying to escape that, right? He's trying to find any way that he can do to escape death, the impending death that he knows he has, right? They sentenced the state of California, sentenced Tukey Williams to death by lethal injection, wasn't it? Or was one of those ways that they execute. Nonetheless, they sentenced him to death, and now they don't want him escaping that. They don't want to hear nothing about it. You gotta pay for your life. Your life is the sum of the equivalent that you have to pay the state now.
For the heinous crime he committed on March 11th, 1979, when he shot a 67-year-old man in a motel, and shot his 63-year-old wife, then turned and shot his 43-year-old daughter.
Damn.
I think that he's trying to escape that consequence.
Although Stanley Williams has lost all of his numerous appeals so far, he still maintains he's innocent of the 4 murders that landed him in prison. We went to San Quentin recently to meet Williams. We weren't allowed to bring our television cameras inside, but we were permitted to have these photographs taken in a visitor's cage on death row. The next day, I spoke with Williams by speakerphone. Some of your critics have said that you're writing these books is merely a ploy by a guilty man, and that what you want to do is do nice things for society only after you've been locked away and sentenced to die.
If that were true, there would be hundreds of others here and abroad doing likewise before and after me. I'm not a coward, and I would never step on the backs of children to save my life.
The Federal Appeals Court in California, which a year and a half ago upheld Stanley Williams' death penalty conviction, also made a highly unusual statement in support of Williams, saying that his laudable efforts opposing gang violence and his good works and accomplishments since incarceration may make him a worthy candidate for clemency from the governor. That came as a surprise to Robert Martin, the man who prosecuted Stanley Williams and sent him to death row.
I just was astonished.
You look at this motherfucker though, I hate to say it. You could just look at him. He gonna make it his life's work to make sure you ain't got no action right there. Hell nah. He gonna do, he ain't gonna let this slide.
A judge would say that. Stanley was a very brutal person, and I would see no moral equivalent between what he's doing with the books and the crimes that have been charged.
Do you think that he has redeemed himself?
No, I don't. I think perhaps before his God in some way. That's a private affair. Let me put it to you this way. If you're an alcoholic, to be cured or to be rehabilitated, the first thing you have to do is to admit that you're an alcoholic. He's never admitted that he's a murderer. Therefore, how can he be rehabilitated?
What's more, Vernell Crittenden says that if Stanley Williams were totally rehabilitated, he would not only admit to the murders, he would also agree to be debriefed by prison officials, giving them information about the Crips and the way they operate, something Williams has so far refused to do.
That's crazy.
So he said that today, by sitting down and talking to prison authorities, he could help diffuse the situation on the streets.
By him being himself involved in debriefing, it opens the door for others that are in the Crip gang to come forward, and they will tell their stories. But when they see their original godfather, who stands tall in the face of, as they say, in the face of death, and he refuses to tell anything, then that makes that young 16-year-old that's out there with that weapon feel just as committed.
But what information could he have that would be of any value to law enforcement authorities who are investigating present-day gang activity when he's been locked up for over 20 years?
There's a great deal of contact that go on between the outside community and the inmates within these walls. He can explain to us how they gain their money, how they set up their trafficking. He can explain on how they have set up the collection of weapons.
Tell all.
Stanley Williams told me he doesn't have anything to give. He has no current information about the Crips, and even if he did, he says it would violate his code of honor to be debriefed.
So I have to say that the word debriefing is a euphemistic term for snitching. And my convictions won't allow that.
Damn, I gotta hear that shit again. So you mean to tell me they wanted Tookie Williams, right? They wanted him to debrief, not just say that he ain't part of the gang no more. They wanted him to give information. They wanted him to give information, right? They wanted him to snitch. That's what they wanted him to do. And Tookie Williams said, my cases will not allow that. Debriefing is a form of snitching. So Tookie Williams stood tall on that right there. That his moral code right there definitely was part of the nail in the coffin for him right there. You know, they wanted him to roll over at the end, right? You're doing all this shit for the kids. You're telling the world not to gang bang. You're doing all this right here, but that ain't enough. That ain't enough. That we want you to snitch though. We want you to tell us how the Crips really work. And in today's world, this generation right here, what they say, if the new saying is nowadays, if you want your pockets to swell, tell, right? That's the new saying in today's world. If you want your pockets to swell, tell. Because if you go tell, you're gonna get all the clout. You're gonna get all, look at me, look, I done told on all these big gangsters right here, right? Now you gonna get all the clout. Now you that guy, right? That's the world has turned, right? Because at one point in time, you could not tell. Here's a man like Tookie Williams that his cripping, Tookie Williams' cripping has influenced all the cripping that we know it to today, right? 2024, all the way back to 1973, somewhere in that ballpark. I'm sure the critics will be in the comments on what dates and shit, but way back when has influenced it as we know it. The man said he ain't part of no gang, don't want any kids to go down his path. And at the end, he stood thorough, though. Tookie Williams stood thorough on his morals and his ethics right there. He wasn't going to debrief. He wasn't going to be like Gunner, yes, ma'am, let me sign here. Yes, ma'am, I know about criminal enterprises and work for the prosecution. There was none of that shit. His life was on the line right here for that shit. The man's life was. His morals, he could have bended. He could have bended there and rolled over for these people. They probably still would have killed him regardless, but he probably would have had a better chance of actually getting some clemency and getting in front of that governor had he rolled over and gave all that information. And he refused to do that, though. They don't make him, even though that man's gone, RIP to Tookie, but they don't make him like that no more.
Of any value to law enforcement authorities who are investigating present-day gang activity when he's been locked up for over 20 years.
There's a great deal of contact that go on between the outside community and the inmates within these walls. He can explain to us how they gain their money, how they set up their trafficking. He can explain on how they have set up for the collection of weapons.
Stanley Williams told me he doesn't have anything to give. He has no current information about the Crips, and even if he did, he says it would violate his code of honor to be debriefed.
Code of
I
honor.
have to say that the word debriefing is a euphemistic term for snitching. And my convictions won't allow that.
My convictions won't allow that.
Role models, particularly in our African American communities, and a role model that says, I don't snitch on gang members, I don't care how violent or what acts they carry out. I think it's the wrong message. Because gangs are running rapid through our communities. Young people out there killing one another, and they're buying in.
You know, what's crazy is this brother down there got a point on this piece right here. You know, he the prosecution, right? But that's back when criminals really controlled the community. Like, you think about Larry Hoover, right? We think about Larry Hoover and the GDs in Chicago, right? They moved militant out there though. You know what I mean? They was really, the original gangsters that come out of Chicago, like Al Capone and them, they was in suits and they was militant in the mind, and they move now gang members or anything like that is everywhere, anywhere. They sloppy as ever. There's no structure, there's no discipline, there's no nothing. And I know I sound like an old ass man hollering all this shit through the video, but it's crazy because that's no snitching shit might have now you got motherfuckers just fucking up the property value everywhere, doing the most bullshit shit under the sun though. It's
The
crazy.
same code of silence that Stanley Williams is sharing with you today.
Nevertheless, Professor Philip Gasper believes that the positive message Stanley Williams is sharing with children across the country in his books makes him worth more to society alive than dead.
Well, what good would come from executing this guy? Here's somebody who is saying to kids, I can show you that there's a different way, somebody who they will listen to. If Stan is dead, then there aren't very many other people who can have that same kind of impact and influence on kids' lives.
Stanley, how do you convince people that you are worthy? The reality is that people would look at you and remember the way you were and say, this guy was convicted, he's lost his appeals, he's on death row, he got what he deserved.
Yes, well, I can see where they would say something like that. I mean, I'm just trying to remain optimistic and continue to do the things that I do.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Say, got what you deserve right there. You got what you deserve right there. You killed X amount of people. You destroyed your neighborhood. You influenced, generations of gang members and people similar that do similar shit. And you got what you deserve, basically. And his response to that right there is he could humbly understand that, though. He could see where they're coming from right there. Now he's just staying optimistic, he said. I'm just staying optimistic. Maybe there's some hope somewhere. Maybe God make a breakthrough over here. Maybe, just maybe.
That you are worthy. The reality is that people would look at you and remember the way you were and say, this guy was convicted, he's lost his appeals, he's on death row, he got what he deserved.
Yes, well, I can see where they would say something like that. I mean, I'm just trying to remain optimistic and continue to do the things that I do. I don't have the power to stop these people from executing me. I wish I did, but I don't.
I wish I did, but I don't. He wish he could stop that execution. As we all know, unfortunately, they went ahead and they carried out the execution of Stanley Tookie Williams, right? He passed away. I can't remember if it was by electric chair or I think it was lethal injection is what they gave him. Chat, y'all can tell me. But, it's unfortunate, though, because, between both, Tookie Williams and now Larry Hoover, who's still alive, right? Larry Hoover's still here. He's just a dead man walking because at some point, yeah, he's going to expire back there, too, unfortunately. Unfortunately, and this is all behind actions, you know what I mean? Actions that they did, decades and decades ago. And there's no redemption from man. Man is going to give you no redemption. You can get redemption with God, right? You can get your heart right. You can do all that shit. You can get yourself right, and recognize and let the light into your world and your soul and realize the shit you was doing that was wrong and morally and unethical and all that good shit in front of God. But the courts ain't trying to hear that shit. It don't matter. It's too late. It's too late. It's too late to ever get a chance back in the free world. This free world that we wake up every day to and think that, hey, this is a given. We're going to wake up tomorrow. We're going to jump out of bed. Our feet are going to land on the floor. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. This is not no given, surely for a month, especially if you're in the streets. If you part of any kind of gang that's in the streets moving around, doing any kind of criminal shit, guaranteed, your freedom is very limited. But y'all know that shit. Y'all know that shit. I'm just over here preaching. But it's a mind fuck to think that, all these gang members, right? Leaders, founders, right? They whole ideal of who they was, everything they lived for, everything they put all they shit into the gangbang to destroy. At the end, they want another chance, though. That's all they want. They just want another chance at life. They don't want to do nothing they was doing before. They just want another shot at life. They just want another chance at living and being right this time. That's all they want. But man, it's too late. Too late. But y'all let me know what y'all think, man. I'm about to tap out on this video right here. I got some more content coming to you. If y'all listen to this, man, hit me with a like. They got my page shadow banned right now, and I ain't getting no reach on no videos or none of that shit. I might have to set it out for a week or some shit. But you know, if you tapped into this right here, hit me with a young like. That's all I ask for, y'all. And shit, I'm gonna keep the content coming though. Pull up on me next time. I'm gone.